Former TV exec Paul Chato blasts Hollywood for its fake diversity. I blast Hollywood for their diversity not being diverse enough.
5, 4,
Uno.
Hola, mi gente. What's happening? I hope everyone is doing well. Hope you had fun with that intro. I am going to explain. I will explain myself later in the video. I promise. I have 5 points, 5 reactionary points to the great Paul Chato's video that he just put out. If you haven't already, please go and subscribe to his channel. I will have all his links in our video description. And I will have the link to our recent live stream where he came on the channel and I feel started this great conversation we had. Here's his video right here. There's Paul. Handsome man. How are you, sir?
The Latino population of the United States is 62 million, while the Black population is 45 million. So why aren't we seeing a higher percentage of Latino representation in movies and TV shows?
This representation in numbers as far as census is a recent phenomenon. It's always been said that since the 70s and 80s, by 2020, we're going to be this. By 2030 and by 2050, we'll be the majority of the United States. So that is coming to fruition. That's all that is happening. But it's a recent thing. Okay, so my next point is, why is Black culture so familiar in the U.S.
After researching decades worth of TV guides, there were more attempts to be the point of this video. Most of the Western world is familiar with many aspects of Black American culture. Why is that?
Okay, so I know Paul's answer here, and it's a fantastic answer. He basically says it boils down to music and sports, and he's not wrong. In entertainment, the music of the Black culture has always been there, right? Has always been on the plantations or in multicultural cities such as New Orleans, Florida, etc., etc. So that has been there. Now, at the same time, the Spanish culture, Mexican predominantly, there has been a cutoff point. In the 1850s, there has been a cutoff of the communities drawn upon language. And language kept the U.S. Latino communities separate from the dominant, how do you call it, American culture. So Black culture gotta step ahead. And I mentioned Louisiana and New Orleans because it's the birthplace of jazz. And by the 1900s, I would say by the 1920s, it was called jazz. So not only were they there as far as with the American culture a lot longer, inclusive to that culture, they created what we know as modern time in music. Again, it's kind of like with the population, is they just have had a head start. Plus, they have a shared language, which is English. Because after a certain amount of time, the majority of the African American culture here speaks English. Now, their colloquialisms and mannerisms kind of have always, been a part of popular culture. Rock and roll, hip hop, that hasn't changed, and it's dominant. The U.S. Latinos started to do is create their own industries in popular culture. Spanish radio, Spanish newspapers, Spanish music, Spanish traveling tent shows called La Carpas. Those all existed. And of course, Mexican Broadway vaudeville existed over 100 years ago in Los Angeles. So you could see where we're going here. The lines start getting drawn and become stronger and stronger. And it's not really until the 40s, until the Pachucos and the Zoot Suiters who spoke in English, listen to English boogie music, black music, right? Bebop, boogie music, grandchildren of jazz, that you started seeing the Chicano and the U.S. Latino culture kind of, if you will, crossing those lines of intersectionality. Excuse me, completely different. But you see what I mean? It literally is, once that person crosses the tracks to go to another part of town, that's when they're noticed. And that's just what decades of segregation have done. And not that it is what it was. What it was. That's how it was. This was a Spanish section. This was a black section, and later on Jewish, Asian, so on and so on. So that's why I think the black culture was so familiar and is still so familiar in the U.S. culture. How about that for an answer there, Chato? Again,
they haven't ascended to similar cultural success, which is perplexing for Latinos who dominate baseball. Why aren't there more people buying Manny Ramirez baseball jerseys?
Going back to what I established earlier, the Spanish media market in the U.S. is huge, guys. We're not even talking about going out of the U.S. So there is no reason for a lot of these gentlemen like Manny Ramirez. I'll give you an example of a Dodger, Julio Urias. Speaks very broken English. He doesn't really need to speak English because he can do all his interviews in Spanish. Radio, television, sponsorships. It's already there. It has existed and it is thriving. And it feeds that huge majority of that 62 million Latinos that still devour their entertainment in Spanish. Okay. Also content, what he's talking about, content from novellas to TV shows to movies that are in Spanish that are produced for Spanish market. That is huge. So why haven't they ascended in popular music and sports? That's my answer for sports. In music, the crossovers have. Becky G, great example. Selena Gomez, another example. She sings in Spanish and in English, multi-hits, multi-selling albums. So they're there and they exist. Another one, Bad Bunny, the Puerto Rican. Puerto Ricans are U.S. Citizens. And now Bad Bunny is ascending to major film roles. Bullet Train, and now he's going to be a lead in the Marvel film. So again, I go back to my first statement of just timing and numbers. So I think it's unfair maybe to also compare this to maybe the black culture, because it's almost as if they've had decades and decades ahead. They're decades and decades ahead.
There is an existing huge Spanish language entertainment industry that spans Mexico through South America, yet not a lot of breakthrough Latino content or actors on American TV or movies.
You're on point, but yet let me expand on this. There actually are and there have been. Okay, now I had already said about Spanish content produced here in the States for the Spanish-speaking audience. You're talking about a completely different monster of the Spanish markets of all the Latin American countries. But now, and this is very recent, now you're seeing a swath of Latin American actors breaking through. Gael Garcia Bernal, Diego Luna, okay, Arja Arjona. These are Latin American actors who speak both languages but their first language was Spanish, breaking through. Pedro Pascal, Oscar Isaacs Hernandez, that's his last name. So it's there, but this is like within the last 10 years, maybe even less. I would say probably the last 5 years, those people are now more household names in the US now more than ever, which is fantastic because they're doing amazing roles. I mean, I cannot wait for the next Pedro Pascal movie. Oscar Isaac, Diego Luna, Gael Garcia Bernal, I'll see anything he's in. And they all individually have huge followings. Bad Bunny, another example. he is the biggest music star right now we know. Now he's starting to do films. So I would say actors, yes. Content, no. You are correct. And here's the interesting um, what is the word I'm looking for? Here's the catch 22 with that. There've been amazing Latino directors that have come from their content being hits out of Latin America. Okay, let's use three examples. I always go for the three Mexicans. Guillermo del Toro. Okay, Pan's Labyrinth. Now he's doing Shape of Water. He's doing Pacific Rim, Hellboy. Boom. Inarritu, Amores Perros. Then he went on to do 21 Grams, Birdman, Revenant. Last one, Alfonso Cuarón, Y Tu Mamá También. And now he went on to do Gravity and Children of Men among Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. Those very Latin American directors who can create and bring over content, like your example of a Squid Game or Parasite. They either will do English films with non-Latino actors, or they'll go back to Mexico and do a Mexican film all in Spanish. That is my answer in my expanded thoughts on that as to why I think that. And finally, the great Chato goes on.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
I challenge Hollywood.
Okay.
If you're going to play the diversity card, then be truly diverse.
Beautiful. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. 100%. And challenging Hollywood for diversity in their diversity. Now, I said that earlier at the beginning of this video, because half measures avail us nothing. And if it's not fully authentic, then it's just tokenism. The thing is, these studios in Hollywood, they don't know shit to anyone. They can do and they do whatever they want. But it would probably behoove them to keep greenlighting original new television and films that happen to have Latino themes in them, because the more you do that, the more success that breeds, the less race swapping, the less tokenism you're going to have. And I know a lot of people do not care for that type of entertainment. Now, there's people out there that who are maybe from my background or from another, whatever background that don't care if they don't see themselves. I don't need to be seen to be represented. I get it. But the ones that do, we're not weirdos. We just realize how important this media is and how important, what an important guide in a positive way it could be for someone who's young, for someone who wants to tell better stories. So give us a little bit of a break for people that want to be seen. But you can't just have one narrow niche target, and that is your Latin X representation. Because if anything is proven, is that the Latin X is a super minority as far as how we define ourselves. So that's my diversity within your diversity. If you can't handle that, if you don't want to do the heavy lifting, I get it. But if you do, then the answer is really clear. Hire more Latino writers and directors. Finally, I'm going to give you this example, and I want to again thank you for Chato for his great video. I recently did a video on National Treasure: The Edge of History, which I have grave concerns about the Disneyfication of the Aztec and Mayan culture, because I don't know if they did their homework or if they bothered to hire experts in the field, maybe a Latino writer. You're going to go down that path, go all the way. Don't half-ass it. We'll see you soon. Paz y delegas.